God commanded Israel on Mount Sinai to dwell in booths for 7 days, that your generations may know that God brought them out of the land of Egypt. On this Roots and Reflections, we're going to the Neot Kedumim Biblical Landscape Reserve to check out what makes a tabernacle kosher or acceptable for use during the annual Feast of Sukkot.
And you can come here and have the experience of the Bible time by going back in a time tunnel into the ancient time.
Wow, so close to the airport, so much in the central part of Israel, and you don't hear the planes, you don't see them.
Well, sometimes we do, but you feel like you're in a different world, you know. There is in Israel so high buildings and such a modern Western culture, and yet you can come and see a paradise. It's like nature, and it's like we're going back in time to the ancient time. People live in the nature, quietly, peacefully, and it's a lot of fun. And in the beginning there was barren hills, very little nature, and all the trees and plants that are here were planted with an idea. There is a lot of gardens, which each garden has an idea and a theme. So we have the 4 species, the 7 species garden, the garden of Isaiah. Isaiah is one of my favorite prophets, and all his prophets is full with nature. So you can go and almost feel like you are seeing him, touching the beautiful prophets that are mentioned in the book.
So that's exactly what we'd like to do, is touch what the prophets spoke about. And of course, we're standing by these huts, and I wonder if you could kind of share a bit with us. What are we looking at?
Yeah, so this is a very special area that is all dedicated to the holiday Sukkot. And Sukkot is a very special holiday. We are usually celebrating by the Hebrew calendar. It's usually around September, October, in the beginning of the year. The Hebrew Jewish year is always start at September, October. But it's the end of the agricultural year. This is the harvest time. All the fruits are already picked. And this is very strange in the time that you have all the fruits in your house. Why do you go outside and build a hut? But that's the commandment. That is the mitzvah that is mentioned to do. That in this time of Sukkot, when you have a lot of fruits in your house, you want to prove your belief. You go outside and you thank God. And you said, I'm sitting in a hut. It's very temporary. And I know that everything I have is thanks to, I did good. And I ask you to have another good year of rain and good year that I can collect and gather and harvest all my fruits.
So this is quite an interesting sukkah. It almost looks like a tent or a teepee or something.
Yes, it's true. Well, first of all the sukkot that we built here, we didn't just, our imagination. There is a big Mishnah, the commentary book, that they thought and argue what is a good sukkah, a kosher sukkah, and what is not. Because you just go outside and build yourself a sukkah. It has to have a certain rules that you have to follow. So the tipi is quite interesting. Is that a good one or not a good one? It's a kosher. Can I use it or not? So there is an argument between Rabbi Eliezer and the other rabbis. Rabbi Eliezer said, that's fine, that's okay, you can do that one. But the rest of them says it's not okay. And it should be, it should be at least 3 walls. And this looks like a little bit too temporary, like somebody who was a little bit lazy, he didn't put a lot of effort.
And I see this one's on a cart with wheels. This is like a portable sukkah.
Exactly. We have 2 of them that are talking about transportation, because in ancient time, like today, people were on the ways. So we have here this sukkah. Is it kosher or not kosher? And actually, the truth is that you can ride on a regular day, but if it's on holiday, you're not allowed to do that. The same thing we have with the camel. Is it okay to have a little sukkah if you are riding a camel, and that's what you do, that's your profession? We have a beautiful word in Hebrew for that, megamel, the man who, that's his work. He's like a taxi driver on a camel. So it's okay to do it in a regular day, but you don't do it on Shabbat or holiday, because that's like, not respecting the Shabbat, because you're not supposed to drive a taxi on a Shabbat.
Now let me ask you this before we look at some more. You mentioned kosher or not kosher. To the average audience, they think, but that's only to do with food. But you meant it in a certain kind of an expression, didn't you?
Yeah, it's true, because kosher doesn't go only for food. We know it, that's maybe the most common and popular one. But kosher means if it's doing the mitzvah, the commandment, in the rules. Sometimes you want to do the commandment, but you're doing it wrong. So that's, again, not kosher. So it's most famous for food, but it's true for a lot of things in Judaism. And, for example, for the Sukkot, you can read in the Mishnah, pasul or kosher, right or wrong. And so if you want to do the commandment, you might as well, follow the rules and do it the right way.
Now that's a good word of the week, kasher or kosher.
And it's actually come from the word in Hebrew, the shoresh, the root of the word is kaf, shin, resh, which goes to a lot of things that means in good shape. Do you know how we say to be in shape? Kosher. Yes, it's come from the same thing, doing it the right way. So you can say it for many, many things. It's not only for food, it's for many things in Judaism, but in general Hebrew as well. Going in good shape is being the kosher tov, and being kashir is meaning being fit.
Before continuing with our Kosher Tabernacle tour here in Neot Kedumim, we're going to Jerusalem for a quick street survey to confirm the meaning of our word of the week, kasher.
Something that you can eat if you're Jewish. Like you can't eat pig, but you can eat chicken. So that's kasher.
So everybody that's watching the program wants to know, what is kasher? What does it mean, and what do you have to do?
Kosher is the food. Kosher, it's like a way to eat. It's not simply you cook the food in a kosher way, because the food has to be kosher, and what you eat, what you cook the food in has to be kosher. After that, you have some specific rules what to eat after. For example, you can't eat milk after eating meat. So kosher, yes, kosher is what you can eat, what the religious Jew can eat, but there are thousands of laws, thousands of rules to determine if something is kosher or not.
And have you memorized all those thousands of laws?
No. But some rabbis have, and I trust them, and if they say something is kosher, I eat it.
Is it easy to do?
It's difficult sometimes, but it's you can do it. If you want to keep a kosher, you can do it. If you want to do it.
Kosher, it's a thing that God told us how to do the food that it will be more healthy.
We'll be right back with our knowledgeable Neot Kedumim Biblical Landscape Tour Guide, Michal, right after this message. Michal, I noticed that Sukkahs or Sukkot come in all different shapes and sizes now, something that I'm not used to seeing. And here we have a skyscraper.
Yeah, that looks like a modern sukkah, but actually that's from 2,000 years ago. And this is an argue, is it okay? It's kasher or not kasher? So we have here a duplex sukkah on top of the other. And the first one should not be okay, but the upper one is okay because you can see the stars. And this is something very important about the essence of this mitzvah, is be in nature. Remember that it's, you're in the sky, see the stars. So if you're doing, again, a skyscrapers, like you said, it's again what this mitzvah doesn't want you to do. It wants you to feel in nature, temporary, connected to the sky, connected to God. This is why the upper one is okay, but the lower one, pasul, not kasher.
Got it? If I were just a normal bystander walking by, I'd think even the animals get a sukkah of their own. Why so small?
So they have to make a limit, right? What is the minimum and what is the maximum? So here we have the minimum. The minimum sukkah should be higher than 8 tefachim, which is, tefach is this size. Well, my fist is a little smaller, but I said a normal fist would be a little bit more than that. So 8, which is about 8 centimeters. So 8 by 8, this is what we're talking about, the minimum sukkah. So it should be taller than that for having, somebody is, doesn't have much money, he needs to do something very modestly. So he should do it, but at least more than this size.
I believe in small things because, quite frankly, I am small. So I wondered how somebody so small would be able to fit into a sukkah like this. Let's go see. Hey, it works for me. But then I see we go to the extreme opposite. It's like the World Trade Center of Sukkahs all of a
Exactly. So this one is actually the maximum that you're not allowed to do. You're not allowed to do more than 20 amma. Amma is this one, from here to here. That's all ancient measures. Okay, so we learned already tefach, and this is amma, and it shouldn't be more than 20 amma. Which mean that if you're doing something like that, that's not temporary. We want to do a temporary thing. So you don't have to build so high, even if you have a lot of money. Be modest. Not too much, but not away in the extreme. So it should be temporary sukkah in a modest way. Not like this and not like this. Something in the middle.
So the word amma actually is a cubit. From the bottom of the elbow to the top right here is 1 cubit. Michal, I didn't realize that there's a lake here in Neot Kedumim.
Yes, we made, they are not natural, but they are artificial lakes that we build here at Neot Kedumim as part of showing the ancient culture and agriculture at the ancient time. So here there's one of them. And it's beautiful because I promised you a waterproof sukkah.
Yeah,
Voila.
That's amazing. There's actually a sukkah on a boat.
Yeah, exactly. And it's again showing you that's what's beautiful about the Sukkah stories, because it's really reflect the life of people in ancient time. So there were people in the camel, and there were people that were on the way on the boat, and they still wanted to make the holiday, the feast, to do the mitzvah. So they build a little sukkah, and they can, be on the boat, be on the way, but eat in the kosher sukkah and make the commandment.
In other words, actually, you can come to Neot Kedumim and book a Sukkot cruise on the lake of Neot Kedumim. It's like a cruise ship in old ancient times.
Yeah, exactly. If you can, fit inside the little boat, go ahead.
And of course, you'd have to be careful how you cook on the boat or it'd all go up in flames.
Exactly.
So this is interesting. I see like a bamboo reed. And so what's this all about?
We say in Hebrew kne midah, which is a measuring reed, because the reed has a very interesting character that all those parts are equal, you see? So that was a nature measuring in ancient time. And we added here all the different measuring of ancient time, which comes, the little one is an etzba, finger. That's the little one. Then we have the tefach, we spoke about it before. And then we have the amma. So it's really nice to have kids here coming and standing and measuring themselves. Well, I am only 3 amma and 4 tefach and 2 fingers. That's my height of today.
I won't be able to tell you, but Michal will, how tall I am in biblical terms.
Okay, you are less than 4 amma. You are more than 3 amma. I would say you are 3 amma and 2 tefachim. 3 amma and 2 tefach.
So that interprets to 3 cubits and 2 handbreadths.
And the reed is a very beautiful symbolic plant because it reflects flexibility. Because look at him, it can move in the wind. Every little wind just take him aside. But if you want to take it out, it's very, very hard. And this is what they tell us in the Mishnah, that one should be like a reed. flexible and know to sometimes bend a little bit. That really helps you to get over very hard things and stay in your place. But you need to go with the wind.
As we've seen, Sukkahs or tabernacles come in various sizes and layout. My own Sukkah at home meets the Kosher requirements. Nevertheless, it's comfortable and ample enough to entertain numerous friends for the holidays. So this is the most unusual Sukkah now. We've seen the waterproof. Now we have one as a tree house.
Exactly.
Was this permitted?
Well, yes, but the only thing that you should be careful that if you're going there on a Shabbat, that you should be careful not to break a branch, which you're not allowed to do on Shabbat. But in a regular day, go ahead, enjoy the view. That's like real nature. I love this. This is my favorite Sukkah.
Is this, by the way, where you live?
No, but I would not, for like a few days in a week, I would be okay with it.
Each year, there are fewer and fewer Holocaust survivors left living among us. When the Holocaust ended, many persecuted Jews arrived in Israel and found a place they could call their home. Sadly, their troubles were far from over. A shockingly large number of Holocaust survivors living in Israel today are stricken by poverty and loneliness, with no families to care for them. Due to financial distress, many must choose between heating their homes for the winter or buying food and medicine. It is our mission to reach out to these beloved ones and show them through our actions that we care for them by providing for them physically, financially, and emotionally. Whether by financial aid, heaters and blankets in the winter, or multilingual social gatherings, we strive to bless them with fellowship, community, and care.
From Tabernacle City, Michal leads me to another important place for the Feast of Sukkot, the Garden of the Four Species, which includes 3 types of branches and 1 type of fruit. These 4 are held together and waved, representing 4 types of Jews. One is the Ethrog, a type of citrus fruit having both smell and taste, making the Ethrog the leading species with both works and faith, taste and smell. So this is the Garden of the Four Species?
Exactly, yes. Arbaat Aminim, which are very related to Sukkot, this holiday. And if you look around you, it's really obviously that there are just much more than 4. Because the Bible doesn't tell us name of a tree, but it gives us like characters. For example, the most interesting one would be Pri Etz Hadar, which would be a beautiful and very fancy fruit. Now later on, in the time of the Mishnah, they did like a reality show, like American Idol, who is the most, suit to be the fruit, the beautiful fruit. So for example, you see the carob tree, it was one of the candidates. But then they say, well, the tree is beautiful, but the fruit is not of a carob. It's a little bit not so beautiful. And then they suggest the pomegranate, which is a beautiful fruit. But they say, okay, the tree is not fancy and nice enough. Eventually, and don't ask me why, but they decided it should be the Ethrog, which is a very interesting tree, not very known. It's from the family of the citrons. This is why it looks a little bit like lemon, but it's not. And the Ethrog is very, very difficult tree to grow. And I know because I'm from the village in Israel that was the first one to grow Ethrogim in Israel. There was like one family in my village that in like the 50s decided that they will grow Ethrogim in Israel, and they did a lot of research, and they succeeded to make the first Ethrog in Israel. It's like a very spoiled fruit because if it has a little scratch, it's not kosher again. So if you go before the holiday, there is a market of 4 species in Jerusalem. It's beautiful. And a nice Ethrog, you can pay 100 shekel for it. So, and it's only for Sukkot, only for the mitzvah. The only other thing you can do after Sukkot is to make a marmalade from it. But to eat it like this, it's not nice.
Now, one of the things I wanted to ask you here is that I remember going to the shuk, the market, and picking out an Ethrog, and it was so difficult to find one that didn't have a mark on it.
Yeah, it's true. This is why I told you it's very, very spoiled. And when you are, a farmer, that's what you do. You really need to protect it and take good care of it, because a little scratch like this make it again not kosher one. So they really, plant and grow it in a lot of care and very gentle, and it's very easily to get defect. You can see right here. And for example, maybe this one is a good one. You can a little bit look around it, but from here it looks good.
The second member of the 4 species is Myrtle, which has smell but no taste, equated to having faith without good works. This is like the enchanted forest of Myrtle.
Exactly.
It's really a cozy kind of a tunnel of trees here.
And they're all the candidate for what we were talking before about, the thing that you cannot be able to see the branch. It's so covered and packed with leaves that it's almost impossible to look at the branch. Enough, it's avot. It's a thick branch. Now, what is very interesting is that it should be, the fancy one should be having 3 leaves going from one place, from one source. Usually it's only 2. But if you find one that had 3, that would be very expensive in the market. To find hadas meshulash, a triangle myrtles. Now, one interesting thing about the myrtle, that if you cut it or burned it, it will grow up even better. And we see it in nature, that sometimes a crisis like burn just bring out from nature a lot of vivid life again. And it's a beautiful symbolic thing that sometimes, when we have crisis and bad time in life, it only gives us more energy and power for the futures. And we are all like the nature.
The third partaker of the 4 species is the palm, which has taste but no smell, representing those who have good works but lack faith. Every year we have a sukkah at our house, and we also have these big branches that we put on top. Now, is that the same as what I'm seeing here?
Well, the original commandment was to take the branch kapot tmarim. Kapot from the word kaf, from the word hands, which look a little bit like a hand, the branch open. But then I think they thought later on, if everybody would start, going in the street with this, that can be very dangerous, because you can try. This is not nice. The thorns can be really nasty. So they said, let's think about something else. And they decided that instead of using this for one of the 4 species, they can use the heart of the palm. Now, in Hebrew, it's called lulav, from the word lev, which is heart. And this is the branch that is coming from the heart of the tree, and it's still closed like this. It's not open. If we will leave it on the tree, it will grow up and open. But for the 4 species, you take it in this stage, when it's young and it's still closed. And this is when you go to the markets, again, you want to look for a good one that is very, very young and very close and not starting to get opened. So we have here the lulav, and today we use that as a decorate for our sukkah, usually for the rooftop. And it's beautiful because you can see through the stars, like we spoke before, that it's something that you should see. When you're outside in your sukkah, see again the stars.
The 4th and lowliest element of the 4 species is the willow, which lacks both taste and smell, having neither works nor faith, but is nevertheless waved with the other 3 forming an entity. So I believe there's an old song, I've taken my harp down from the willow tree. And that's exactly where we are right now, is by the willows. Michal, what about these willows?
So look at how beautiful and green they are. But they can be like this only when they are close to water. One thing about the willows, that if you are disconnecting it from the water source, it's very, very quickly became dry. And it is to remind us that we are like nature. We need the water. And if it's going to be a year with no rainwater, we cannot exist. And the holiday of Sukkot, especially the end of the holiday, we start asking for rainwater. Because in this land, in this region, we are dependent on rainwater. We don't have a water source that we can be, enough for our existence. And we are like the willow tree. If we will not have no rain, we will be very easily dry.
So we actually will not be willows, but we will become wilted. None of the 4 species would survive without the rain which falls on the land of Israel from heaven. However, Niot Kedumim offers us an example of an ancient man-made contraption designed to avoid that human reliance on the water of heaven. Now we know there's Coney Island in New York and the whole idea of a Ferris wheel. What have we got here?
Well, we call it Gal Antilia, which is like a water wheel. But what's interesting about it that you can see there are like pitchers all around the wheel. And the idea here is that when you walk inside, it's take the water from down here and bring it through this canal up there. So you can see that we have here like a terrace, that we have a fig tree and we have a vineyard, and the water just comes up. It's like an elevator, but just for the water.
That's an incredible invention. Now, would this have existed in Bible times?
Well, no, not in Bible time, maybe a little bit later on, but again, probably not much in Israel, because of the reason that Israel is lacking of water source. We have more cisterns or wells, but having this is only if you are very lucky and very rich that you have your own water source, then you can have it. But we can see it in Egypt, in Spain, in other area in the region that people use this beautiful water wheel.
Now, is there any direct connection possibly with Sukkot or the biblical feast?
The whole idea of Sukkot has the most important meaning is that we are in the beginning of a new year of rain. Because we just passed the summer, it's all very dry, and we are all yearning for some water, and we are praying for water. It says that B'Chag, in this holiday, nidonim al hamayim. It's like we're going to court, and we are looking for the verdict, if we will be deserved for water or not. So all this holiday is actually about water and about the yearning and how much people are desperate for a good rain of water.
So, we conclude this edition of Roots and Reflections, reflecting on the traditional Jewish prayer for rain recited from the end of Sukkot until Passover. It says in part, "For Abraham's sake, do not keep back water. For Jacob's sake, do not keep back water. Remember Moses, who was drawn in a reed basket out of the Nile's water."